Greetings, fellow humans. Welcome to LAAG. I'm Max.
I'm Sam.
Mr. Burr.
And we are here to bring you another character ranking segment. As you know, our current number one is Optimus Prime from the Transformers. And bringing in number 14 and final on our list is Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars The Prequels. Mr. Burr, I believe that today you've brought us a list of 3 characters.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward very much to hearing it. So hit us with the first one.
Number 1 will be Lady Arwen from Lord of the Rings.
Arwen. Yes, Liv Tyler's character. She's okay.
Snoresville.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's funny because she's like a non-character in the books, and they expand her story so much in the films. But even with that, she's essentially a plot device. I mean, you appreciate their great romance.
She is a representation of femininity and grace. She is a representation of sacrifice for humanity and frailty and love over immortality. She is life-affirming. She creates a spiritual backbone for the importance of Aragorn's quest.
Yeah, but I don't know if any of those things make her a good character, like in the same way.
She's not even as interesting as the character in the history of the Lord of the Rings that she reminds characters of. Luthien, Tinuviel, and Beren together seem to be much more interesting than she was.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, Arwen doesn't really stoke the creative fire. I mean, she's fine, but I mean, as the books themselves showed us, you could 100% not have her be in it, and all that you would really lose would be some of Aragorn's motivations. So she's fine, but I don't know if she's going to go pretty high on this current list. For example, I gotta be honest, I think that she's not as good as Dolores Ed from the Game of Thrones.
It's not as good as Dr. Girlfriend either.
No,
and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, I should say.
But, yeah, I like her better than... I don't know, maybe I'd put her under Queen Padme is where I'd put her.
I do think that she's better.
Dr. Mrs. the Monarch? Nah, man.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Burr. I know that it happens so often this way with the ones that you haven't seen as much. But I am confident that if you were to watch all of the things the same way, that, I mean, you would at least understand where we're coming from and not be shaking your head so vigorously.
Dr. Mrs. the Monarch.
You think that she's better than Dolores Ed?
Yes. She's a more significant part of the story.
Oh, 100%. But that's not always how a character is judged, just by how significant they are.
Dolores Ed is
this
funny
list is how much we like
hell.
her.
What she represents. I like her a lot. I think she adds a level that, adds consequence to the decisions. And, her choice to remain with humanity shows one of the big...
But you understand the thing I'm saying about the source material, right? Where it's like, her place in the books is extremely minimal. In the books, she's very much just a plot device.
Most important thing she does is marry Aragorn and give Aragorn a stone.
The most important thing she does is sacrifices immortality to live a human life for love.
She's not the first to
but
do
that's
it.
Still, I mean, that's good and noble, but I don't know if that's necessarily compelling in the same way. Like, I don't know if I like that character as much as somebody who's doing more entertaining things in a story.
She did it in the movie, but I don't know what version you're going to pick. Yeah, in the book,
it's a combination of all.
But they made her, she was badass. She did a lot of saving. She, with the horse, she fought.
She's good in the movie. Yeah.
In the movie, she definitely gets points for the movie for taking the especially when she takes over Glorfindel's role in the first one.
Yeah, and when they expanded her role, it was more seamless and it made sense, and I liked it in the movie, as opposed to what they did in that Hobbit remake, where they just kind of invented that one character.
Right. Now, here's the other thing, though, is that I don't know if Liv Tyler is the most compelling actress, especially when she's put up against the powerhouse acting of that series. So if we're accepting that movie Arwen is the best version of Arwen...
She was so beautiful in that movie.
Yeah, but that's incidental. Liv Tyler's very attractive, but I just feel like she's not a compelling actress.
I did not. I thought she represented the stoicism and the grace to play an elf well. It's not about comedy or that kind of charisma. It's just about an elegance that she did well. I mean, I don't think there was like anything wooden or like portrayed her as anything other than like
I don't know. I think it is one of those cases where you could, on the one hand, say it's wooden, on the other hand, saying that's how an elf would act. Like it's the Vulcan problem.
Yeah. Then there's the Two Towers problem, where you get a bunch of flashy scenes of Aragorn flashing to memories with her and Rivendell.
Like, I love their arc.
Boring.
But anytime in the movies we're taking a minute to, like, have them be romantic with each other, those are always the slowest parts of the films.
I like those scenes, though. I thought they added a grace and
So you would say there are slower parts than that?
No, not what.
We can still say it's all 10 out of 10.
Yes. Some of the parts are slower, but there is a lot of trudging scenes where there's like trudging to a destination.
I like that stuff.
I like it too. I love the movies in general, but I'm just saying I love it all. Like I love the trudging scenes are fine, but I also love the emotional, weighty scenes of, you know, the stoic love of Aragorn and who also, and I love his acting, but they both represent this kind of like stoic, dutiful elegance that's not like they save the jokiness for like Gimli and Legolas and all that stuff, and they have
but
like,
I can't be with you. It's tragic. Sure.
Like when she's sitting there doing a scene with Hugo Weaving, are you really thinking to yourself, Liv Tyler's the most entertaining person in this scene?
No, but I mean, she represents love in that there's no real other big.
But that's what I'm trying to get at here, is that you're digging into represents. You're digging into like this thing, which is really more about the plot of the story and like how things are being set up to make you feel about other characters. But if you just drill her out and think like, talk to me about how compelling the character is without ever mentioning Aragorn or her relationship to Aragorn. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Because I feel like she's so dependent on Aragorn's plot that she therefore becomes a plot device in his story. Like, can you even really describe her in that much detail outside of general elfness if you don't mention Aragorn or their relationship?
No, because it's her character is defined by representing...
Exactly, which I think makes her not as good as Padme Amidala for sure, who is a full character with the character arc. Like, Arwen, does she have an arc? I think it's right. These are the things that make her less compelling as a character, as much as I do like her in the movie.
I'd rather save higher places on the list for better Lord of the Rings characters anyway.
That's for sure. I think that I am going to go... I do like her more than V for sure.
Yeah.
Just get that out of the way. I'm going to go above Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, below Dolores Ed.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I guess that's in between Burr and myself. So, yeah.
That becomes the right spot. All right, Mr. Burr. That was a good one. Hit us again.
Number 2 is going to be Rhaegar Targaryen.
Rhaegar Targaryen. Barely a character.
No! That I dispute.
Yeah, no, tell me about this character who has had almost no actual screen time in any form.
No, I mean, you go to the book version.
Yeah.
Where he is also already deceased.
Mm-hmm.
But they flesh him out. I mean, there is a lot of material to go through. I mean... his friendships, his youth being more interested in music and wanting to be a singer, being more artistically minded, reading something which gives him weight. You don't really know what that is until the end, where he decides that he needs to learn something and incorporate something else. He becomes that. He becomes a completely badass warrior, even though he's an artist, he's a warrior, he's a scholar. He learns to be a warrior because he's so capable. He's the one in his family that represents... I mean, because the Targaryens represent such a gray area. There's like the crazy bad ones, but, you know, his father's bad and the war happened. But the tragedy is that Rhaegar is a great one, and he would have made a great king. But that was prevented by Robert and the whole rebellion because of the actions of his father. So it's like, yeah... it adds so much complexity to that whole struggle, because it's like, yeah, maybe, you know, Aerys was bad and needed to be deposed, but what did they really do? Because maybe they should have just deposed Aerys and had Rhaegar live. And then the tragedy of Rhaegar's death, the relationship with Lyanna, the connection to Jon, the connection to Daenerys, all the fond memories, the characters, never anything bad said about him, even his enemies respect him, the coolness factor, the badass factor, his prophecies, his importance with the prophecies, his connection to the whole events of, like, the Targaryens.
I hate to be pulling this out again, but once again, because he hardly ever actually appears, He's fully defined by people telling stories about him.
Great stories.
And the things that like happened in history that are affecting now. Again, I do feel, and I do think he's a better character than Arwen for sure. So weirdly, since she actually does appear, but I do think he's also a plot device.
I don't.
Because you almost never really get to see the character, and half the things you hear about are later said to be like, oh no, actually he was this.
Oh, that's true.
Like, people call him this because, the winners of war write the history, but, like, he was actually, like, a nice, noble guy. That's all well and good, but we barely ever see the real Rhaegar. We just hear stories about gallantry.
But all the stories corroborate.
Like, how many characters in Game of Thrones would you rank him over?
He's my favorite. Him and I also like, and more knows it. I know he's a more minor character. And
like, would you rank him over Daenerys Targaryen?
I like him so much that, like, yes, I think that she's
that's
like a
the thing that you have to set aside is like, ooh, I just purely like this character.
I do. Okay, so I love, and I wouldn't, there's less to say about him, even though I could make an argument for why I love Arthur Dayne in that series, who's already deceased. But Rhaegar is.
There is something to be said for cool stories that are like mythological bites.
Rhaegar is one of the pillars that the entire story is built on.
Yes.
So that is like...
But I wouldn't say...
Ned Stark died so quick, and you could say he's a great, great character.
Oh yeah, but Ned Stark is a character that we follow for an entire book.
Yeah.
Like, we get his inner thoughts. We get, like full-on actions that definitely happen. We get him reacting to people. We get, like, a real sense of that character. I would never rank Rhaegar over Eddard Stark.
And just the charisma of Rhaegar.
Would you rank him over Eddard Stark? Is that what you're saying?
In different ways. I think Eddard Stark I like as representing a man, a good man, making real choices. The complexity, the fact of his being a second son and the inheritance and all this great stuff. But I mean, what Rhaegar represents is just this charisma and the sophistication. Like every time that they bring him in,
the thing that I wonder about, though, is in this world that Martin has set up where it's like, yeah, we have these stories about people being so noble, but really, when you look at it, like, Ned Stark, we know he was a noble man, but even he made mistakes. With Rhaegar, it's like, what is the actual darkness in there? We don't know Rhaegar. We know what people have been told about Rhaegar. We have, like, little ideas of things from, like, visions that Dany has seen. So we have a pretty good idea of which version of Rhaegar in the stories that we hear is closer to the truth. But, like, we don't know anything about what darkness might have been in Rhaegar. Like, the bad thing he did was, he fell in love with a woman and he stole her away and started a war. And maybe, so I guess that would be selfish. But... like, it's also, like, inferring from secondhand accounts. It's rough to, in my opinion, to really get a handle on that character and really, like, fully believe, like, oh, yeah, he was this cool guy who did all these cool things.
I think he was. I think that's what, I mean, like, when they say that because of, the history of the Targaryens and all the inbreeding and whatever, it's like flipping a coin between madness and greatness. Well, we see a lot of the madness. We see a lot of the weakness. We see Viserys. We see Aerys, the father, briefly. Then we see Daenerys later. And besides Daenerys, the only one that's referenced before her that shows the line that she came from, what she's inheriting of, like, the blood of the dragon, is Rhaegar. The one, she's inheriting his role as the powerful, smart, capable Targaryen character. And every time he's brought, I just think that he's so majestic. And even the way they describe him, the armor, the ruby armor, the forge, it almost... deifies in this tragic way that adds such a great part of the story. That if that part of that story was missing, it would suffer so much. And that's what I'm saying. You can make the argument.
That's what I'm concerned about, is that we're going to be ranking Rhaegar the legend, not Rhaegar the character.
But we
don't know Rhaegar the character.
But from everything pieced together, and it's a long story as we all know, it really confirms that Rhaegar really was this great guy. And that, and you make a good point. Like, I think Arwen's great, but you say she's taken out of the story. Could the story function? I would say that it would lose a bit, but yeah, it could function better. But I think without Rhaegar's...
the books kind of prove that.
Yeah. Without Rhaegar's contribution... Well, yeah, the books, they don't put her in it much, but still her contribution being like...
she's even more of a plot device in the books.
Plot device, but it's an important plot device. But Rhaegar is...
he's key.
Key. They took him out of the story with the whole... I mean... Spoiler alert. No, just kidding. We all know what happened. A Song of Ice and Fire. He's the fire. A lot of people said it was Daenerys or whatever. It's like, no, Jon Snow is the Song of Ice and Fire because Rhaegar's his father. Like, he's the pillar. Like, he is the fire in that statement. Like, he's such... And I'm so impressed that Martin, which a lot of people don't do, because a lot of people use, memories and characters that aren't with us anymore to explain things, and that's all. But Martin does it so well that, like, you just feel his presence even though he's been dead the whole time. Like, you never see him alive, but he exists in the story as important, because a lot of these characters do from the past. He brings it in of just like these events have been set before us, but they're like so.
That doesn't make him better, in my view, than a character who's less important but always present, like Dolores Ed, who, he's always there. He's given a strong, a funny line, a great supporting character, or a long dead legend character.
Oh, no. So interesting. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, I can't go that far.
A deadly warrior who's also royal, that doesn't like martial things, but excels at them, whose true love is to sing. Somebody who's completely wrapped up in duty. An intellectual who has the weight of something on his shoulders because he can see certain things. Somebody who is regal and capable and royal, but tragic, because he never got to inherit what he would have been so great at, which was his destiny anyways, just because of tragic circumstances. I love the character of Rhaegar. I think he's so, when I read it, I think that character just is such a cool character, even the way they describe him and everything. I like him.
All right. Let me say that 100% think you just have to go with Dolores Ed. I don't know that he goes above Padme Amidala. Padme Amidala is just as important to her franchise as Rhaegar is to his.
You know how much I love T-Bow, but I would put him above T-Bow. I'd put him against Eric Cartman or Dargo. I like him more than Piccolo. More than Daenerys, that's a stretch, because Daenerys is great, and it's from the same series, but...
Yeah, we're not going that high, because he's not enough of a character to beat so many of these characters that do so many things in their shows.
But I think a favorite character doesn't have to just do with, like, complete importance and impact, or we would just choose the protagonist or the antagonist in a series.
Okay.
I mean,
right,
I could never argue that he would beat a lot of these characters on just individual importance to the story. But as a character, like, the way that he's explained is just so cool to me. That I personally love the character.
My absolute ceiling for Rhaegar personally, is Dargo. I could be convinced to put him above Dargo, but I think the spot for Rhaegar is actually right around the Amidala T-Bowl spot.
I would agree with putting him under Amidala. I'll concede to him being so important to the story that he can beat my beloved Dolores Ed.
I think he's a cooler character than Amidala or T-Bow. And Amidala, I like a lot from that series.
I understand what you're getting at, but I feel like a lot of the coolness is like filling in the blanks stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if we... Like, there just isn't enough screen time for this character. Like, he just can't achieve the greatness of so many characters that do, like, in his own franchise. Like, I would never put him above Tyrion. Like, I couldn't put him above Jon Snow.
Couldn't put him above the Hound.
Couldn't put him above the Hound.
I'd
probably put him above Sansa.
I like him better than all those characters. Jon Snow is a main character. I'm a big Jon Snow fan. All
right, I'm going to suggest a happy medium here, because I feel like you did argue very passionately.
Yeah.
And, like I get what you're saying, and I feel like that deserves some extra spots. So
I love Rhaegar. It's not just like, because I don't believe it, but, like, I really think... But like I said, I also love Sir Arthur Dayne. I'm attracted to those. I like...
See, weirdly, I would rank Arthur Dayne above Rhaegar Targaryen.
There's so much less...
Because if we're just going based on, like, ooh, cool inferences, and, like, ooh, the ability of this character to be super badass and awesome and honorable... Like, I weirdly would gravitate towards the not as important character.
I guess, he was Rhaegar's right-hand man, and he was
that
super cool.
thing.
Yeah, he was super cool, too, but I think Rhaegar was more complicated.
I think the happy medium spot for this is to put him under Dargo above Eric Cartman. Because
Okay.
Cartman, for being a great character, is extremely hateable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rhaegar is not even close to hateable. I think that everybody from Cartman on down has hateable qualities.
Yeah.
Rhaegar, I'd say that just like we can't say for sure about any of the heights, we can't say for sure about the lows. So I think that's the spot. Number 8,
Okay.
which is still in the top half of a pretty top-heavy list. We want to say that there's probably only one character on this list we hate. So, you know. All right, so that's Rhaegar. I think I spelled that right. All right. We're kind of running on, so hit us with the third.
The third one is meant to inspire debate.
Oh, the first 2 words?
Well, more so. I mean, like,
Okay.
because the first 2, I like. Arwen, you know, I like for a certain reason, even though it's a simpler reason. But the third, I don't know how I feel, honestly.
Tell
But
us. I'm ready.
It's Rey from Star Wars.
Ray.
Interesting.
Ray sucks.
I don't necessarily agree. I think that...
Is her name just Ray?
Yeah.
It is, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rey suffers because of a whole direction that the series has taken. We've gone through
Yeah, Ray-centric.
our theory of Rey. Well, no, but also, like, you know, in the second one, you know, if you were, you know, it was all about, you know, female energy just being smarter and more capable in every way. Well, that, you know, if it was just Rey, that would have been fine. But it was like Rose and then Leia and then, you know,
Admiral, what's her
Admiral,
name?
just-
Holdo.
Holdo. So it's just like, we need to stack 10. And Rey suffers for that because it's just like, oh, if it would just been Rey and like everything else had been more balanced and normal, she's kind of like a new version of Luke, who's like, okay, well now, you know, gives a broader perspective. She is, and I think that there is a strong argument that that could be something she suffers for, is lack of originality. She's very close in origin to Luke, other than being a woman. Jakku could be Tatooine.
She's like Luke if Luke was really good at everything.
Yeah, and that's another argument, which is
Because Luke is a good pilot. Like, that's his skill at the beginning. And other than that, like, he's not an amazing warrior. He's an okay blaster shot. Like, he's good with ship weapons, but, like, you know, he's not hitting a million stormtroopers when they're firing the guns on the station.
Yeah, when they're being chased by TIE fighters and the Millennium Falcon, you know, he gets one and he's like, I got one. It's a surprise.
Well,
right?
and-
He's not used to it.
Anakin was supercharged, but that's because they explain all his like power level and all sorts of stuff. Too,
Right,
but-
and it's true. Anakin's main thing also was pilot and
Yeah.
base, and they eventually got to a level of excellence, both of them. Whereas Rey, she's piloting the Millennium Falcon like a natural and shooting stuff in that movie, and she's
Fighting
mastering
Sith.
Force things, and she manages to do a Jedi mind trick without ever being trained, and on Daniel Craig.
Holds her
and-
own against Kylo Ren.
Holds her own against Kylo Ren. Like, the number of things that she's able to do doesn't feel earned the way it does with other characters. It feels like she's there to be amazing,
yeah,
and it really suffers. Like, she's definitely my least favorite of the main trio of the new trilogy
Yeah.
of her and Finn and Poe Dameron.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I like her as much as Finn and Poe. Maybe I do think that Kylo Ren is an interesting character.
Kylo Ren is also more interesting than she is.
Yeah.
But they also balance out because he's rough too. Anything that she does that seems amazing versus him, I think, can be argued as them both being upstarts. But anything that she's doing against other people, that falls kind of through.
The fact that Kylo Ren couldn't just like really easily defeat Finn in a
And he
lightsaber
couldn't even make a lightsaber right. That was like the argument for why his lightsaber looked shitty, was because like he didn't know how to make a correct one yet.
Right.
Really, Kylo Ren is kind of shit.
So Rey, I feel like she's gonna go on the list because I don't think she's better than Dolores Ed. I don't think she's better than Arwen.
I could go either way because I did introduce that one to be more of a not like, I mean, with Rhaegar, as you heard, like I'm a Rhaegar fan. With Rey, you know, I think
Rhaegar
she's
booster.
yeah. I mean, but with Rey, I think like she's beautiful and like, you know, there are other compelling reasons why she could be an interesting character and add like a different element, but. At the end, like, yeah, there is a lot of some lack of originality, and then she's pumped up, and then like she adds to the problem. This is not meant to sound like anti woman or woman power or anything, but like when you have 10 other badass women and nothing but a bunch of like clowns and selfish men, then you're just like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, it's overload of just like...
I think that she is better than V. I don't think she's better than Dr. Mrs. the Monarch / Dr. Girlfriend.
I agree.
I would personally put her under Queen Padme. That's where I'd put her.
Above Dolores Ed.
Dolores Ed to me is...
Above Arwen.
Yes.
You would put her above Arwen.
You made the argument, which is true, which if I had to think about it, and even though I would say, without having previously gone through this, like, she is far more integral to the story that they're trying to tell with her. Now, Dolores Ed, I think he's a great character, and he's funny, and he's good on the show, he's good in the book, yes, but, and I did also make the argument that it's not all about importance and protest, but like
it is somewhat about importance.
Yeah, and like for me, I'm
that's
like,
why Ron's so high.
Yeah. So Dolores Ed, I'm kind of like,
I can understand that. I do think it's right around that area, but I really think that the character just isn't compelling. The character just doesn't feel compelling. She's never the most compelling character on screen at the same time as her. Like, if she's on screen with Finn's probably more entertaining. If she's on screen with Luke Skywalker, despite being a piece of shit in the movie, is probably more entertaining.
I kind of agree. But I do think that, wherever you put her, I could kind of see, but I'll just say, because you can only rate people where they're at, and the story is kind of still going on, I would just hope that, they do something more with her arc. And that some of this...
I do agree that when the next movie comes out, it may be cause for us to come back and re-examine.
All the boys in her origin story was very compelling to want to know. I don't like all this, we don't care about the mystery stuff they're doing with the new Star Wars. Even with Snoke and stuff. Like, I want to know where Snoke came from. I want to know who Rey's parents were. I don't want just it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter.
We'll see what J.J. Abrams does. But I do think that means that for now, I think we should put her on the list below Dr. Mrs. the Monarch with an asterisk. Once her story finishes, we may decide, like, okay, this was worth it, and reconsider her position on the list.
All right, fair enough.
Well, Mr. Burr, I want to thank you so much for providing us with that very controversial list. We got some really good debate out of it. We ran pretty long on that one.
Yeah, that was fun.
So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will be back soon with more LAAG ranks.
Skidoo.